And welcome in to another edition of the Skol Purple Podcast, episode number 6. And it's a breaking news episode as I welcome in Chris Dupick this evening. Chris, how are you doing?
Hey, thank you for asking, man. I'm doing good. I'm hanging in there with it seems like it's been a crazy day following Vikings Twitter, getting on the Jim Harbaugh train, getting off the Jim Harbaugh train. So, it's been a roller coaster of a day, but overall I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's very interesting news. Kevin O'Connell is supposedly going to be the new Vikings head coach and not Jim Harbaugh, who we had been all excited for the last 72 hours or so. And here we are. He's not the new head coach. Not the new head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. So, quite a shift in how we were thinking, I guess, a little bit. So,
You had to like feel that you wanted the end of the day to end with a Jim Harbaugh job offer, and I think we all felt that way, and yeah, I think it was pretty crushing when it said I saw the tweet that Harbaugh's going back to Michigan 2022.
yep. And I was a little hesitant because it was Adam Schefter, and he reported something that was like, no, there's no way that Jim Harbaugh is going to Minnesota, and he nearly went to Minnesota. He didn't even think he was going to get an interview like this. I don't think so. The fact that he got that sort of wrong, and then the whole Tom Brady retiring, not retiring, now again retiring is not a great look for Adam Schefter. But so I guess what are your initial thoughts? There's been so much that has happened. What are your thoughts on Harbaugh? And then now that he's not going to be the coach, were you pretty excited? And now you're kind of just like, Kevin O'Connell, or were you excited for Kevin O'Connell too?
I was excited for Jim. I think a lot of fans listened to Score North when they had Alex Boone on, and he talked a lot about Jim Harbaugh's coach and stuff when he was with him in San Francisco. So he really just like broke down that Jim is so sort of just like a lead man. He's like uh, one of the really like key things that he brought up too was just like Jim is sort of like very intentional with his decision making, right? He's intentional if it's for the good of his team, and he's diabolical if it's not for the good of his team. So like Alex Boone brought up an example like, we know like one time Jim was like, we know this cornerback isn't going to want to tackle, so we're not even going to like bother blocking him. It's just stuff like that really made me excited for a possible Jim Harbaugh uh, Minnesota reign, but um, especially since Jim is sort of Alex said that Jim is a guy who is always in the offensive meetings in San Francisco, so we know that he has sort of a defensive background, but also Jim had that sort of offensive obsession too, and Alex was like saying that Jim was all about football. It was constant 100% injected football into your veins. And so, when you hear that Jim, we had a shot with him, and it just seems like it's been gone too soon. So I'm sad that we lost out on Jim's sweepstakes, but Kevin O'Connell, I'm not as high up there as everyone is hyped up. I talked about him last episode. I was pretty hyped on him. I think he's got a lot more to prove than a lot of other guys that are out there right now. Um, Raheem Morris being one of them. He's one of my top guys. But even looking at a guy like Brian Flores, who sort of gotten fired from the Dolphins after such a nice run at the end of the season. I mean, we haven't even looked at him, and I think there's tons of other guys to consider before looking towards Kevin O'Connell, who is unproven and sort of in this position where it would be a lot to. I feel like he'd be pretty young. I mean, Raheem Morris had a situation like that where he got into a head coaching gig very young, and it didn't work out for him. He had a really losing record, so that's what scares me the most with O'Connell is that he's a young guy and less experienced than all the other guys.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think Raheem Morris is my top guy right now. Just the fact that he has coaching experience, and they've talked about it at length via Score North of how much he did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even though they were tanking. And so the fact that he got to the playoffs, 10 wins in that season, says a lot about his ability to coach. Almost kind of like the whole Brian Flores thing that's come out. So another interesting NFL storyline. There's been about a billion of them in the last little bit. So,
What
but
is it? The
yeah, Jim.
Washington Commanders. Washington. What is it?
Yeah,
Commanders.
the Commanders.
Crusaders. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
the Washington Commanders. Um, but yeah, I guess anything that you wanted to highlight yet on that whole situation. It seemed like Harbaugh was genuinely interested. It sounded like he was ready to drop everything and leave Michigan. And we get the news today that I don't know if it wasn't the money, enough money that the Vikings didn't offer enough, or if it was just a difference of opinion in how the organization wanted to go. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I mean, you get no, I just totally lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it,
Man.
it's it's been one of those days, right?
Jim, I want Jim so bad, man. I can't even function right now.
uh, yeah, I've seen some people put out there that they're interested in having Pat Graham be the defensive coordinator, and then also having obviously Kevin O'Connell then would be the offensive coordinator slash head coach. So he'd call the plays more than likely, even though he doesn't call the plays in Los Angeles. But I think it'll be interesting to see if they can get a combination of those two or if Kevin O'Connell will have his own say. But I prefer Raheem Morris, even though he's a defensive guy. I think he can put together a good offensive coaching staff. But it sounds like Kevin O'Connell is likely to be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And I'll read the exact tweet from Tom Pelissero. The Vikings are zeroing in on Rams OC Kevin O'Connell as their next head coach. This deal can't be finalized until after the Super Bowl. So my whole thing is like, well, they could get ghosted again by another head coaching candidate. We saw D'Amico Ryans decide to stay in San Francisco. And so does this eventually look bad for the Vikings, or is it just two situations that were just a little bit, not quite the right fit? I understand Ryans, but Harbaugh seemed like he was ready to pack his bags. So I'm a little bit wondering why he decided not to. It sounded like he was 80% in. So whatever that 20% ended up being was the difference. Any thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, that right there that's actually what I was thinking about earlier. That when I drew a blank with my answer, but it was that Harbaugh they were all in on Harbaugh. I mean Harbaugh was all in on the Vikings. It seemed that Harbaugh was geared to come, and it seemed that all intents and purposes, if he got a job offer, the Vikings, he would accept. So I think someone from the Vikings side, I don't know if it was Paul Allen or someone on that side, but I think was saying that it had to be something. You can't be assumed. I don't even think it was Paul Allen. It was someone that tweeted this, but it can't be assumed that Jim turned down the Vikings offer because it was all the inklings that we would see him coming to Minnesota. So I think all the blame can't be put on Jim, but um, it's a tricky situation. Like you said, like we have these candidates, Ryans and now Harbaugh that have sort of sunken the ship with the Vikings before we could get an offer into them. So um, and who knows if an offer was on the table for Harbaugh if it was too low. But I'm sure his asking price is pretty high, given his experience. But um, I don't think it is necessarily a good look that these guys are turning us down. Especially D'Amico Ryan's given his prowess as a leader, and that's sort of like the quality that we're looking for, right? As a collaborator, a leader in that locker room. So it's been disappointing, Ryan's and now Harbaugh. So, but that being said, I'm excited for who we do have left on the table, and I think we have some good candidates that could have that we could be successful with still.
Yeah, hopefully that will pan out. But man, that is tough. As Pro Football Talk, aka Mike Florio, just tweeted, hopefully the Vikings have a plan B in the event O'Connell pulls a Josh McDaniels, or maybe a John Harbaugh, or maybe the Vikings just said this isn't going to work. I'll be interested to hear exactly how that unfolded. If it was Harbaugh that was like, no, this is not going to be the situation I want to be in, or was it that minority owner that we heard about that the Vikings were saying, okay, this this one thing is just bothering me enough that I can't commit to Harbaugh, and he convinced the other owners and Quasi, excuse me. And so lots of different things to consider. So let's go to your dad. He's got how soon will the trades happen for the Vikes now? Well, Mike, I don't think there's any timetable yet because the offseason still has to get started after the Super Bowl. And since O'Connell can't be officially hired until after the Super Bowl, it's going to be a bit. And then the new season has to get started in March. So it's going to be about a month or a little more, I think, before things can really get ramped up via trade, via free agency, and then, of course, looking to the draft. So that is what I would say to that. Anything you wanted
Isn't
to
it such
add?
a Yeah, it's such a strange situation that I don't even know, and this is just speculation, but given that Quasi's in this new role of GM and learning like these guys and learning about them and who they are, and that he is the one who has to like decide on their future in a month or in a half. It's like you get a guy who's in here just learning people and um, learning about them, learning their names, building that team culture, and especially like Kirk Cousins, like there's a lot of questions surrounding him and the new coach, if he'll stay, if he'll go. And it's like with Quasi, it's like you build that relationship, but um, there's the option on the table that, he'll have to be traded off to save up cap or any of those other guys that are sort of free agents. So I don't know. What do you think? Is it kind of a tough spot for Quasey to be in?
It is, definitely, but that's what GMs are paid for. They are put in tough spots. Sometimes I think part of it is just being patient, but in that meantime of waiting, doing some player evaluations, I think that's a huge part of it. And maybe one thing is maybe they had a disagreement on just going back to the Harbaugh thing. Maybe Harbaugh had a disagreement with the Vikings on Kirk Cousins. You know, maybe Harbaugh wanted to extend Kirk Cousins, and Quasey was like, no, or vice versa. Maybe that's not anything like truthful at all, but it could be something to do with it, or maybe just a minor piece of the whole thing. But that's something to think about. Um, let's see. My dad. We got all the dads in here tonight.
Another dad. Let's go.
Could be any number of things. Salary cap, perhaps, with Harbaugh. Yeah, I think that's possibly it because the Vikings have to pay their former GM and coach Spielman and Zimmer. I think the end of next year is when they are done, or maybe it's still one other year after that when they are off the books. So maybe then, but you're hoping to have a coach this offseason that will be there for a while. So maybe money wasn't a big deal. I don't know. It's hard to say. Um, I know salary cap is different, I believe, with a coach or an executive as compared to a player, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So, um, but yeah, I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on what any other explanation, speculation, speculation of why Harbaugh and the Vikings didn't come to an agreement?
Oh my gosh. It's such a hard thing to think about, when thinking about Jim and him not coming, still can't get over it, man. But Jim, I think he's a guy who values that relationship with his players, and maybe it's a situation where he sees the Vikings with a really older roster, and Jim's looking for a situation where he could, sort of grow with guys, and maybe he's looking for something different than what the Vikings roster brought. And like your dad said, I think it very well could be a salary cap situation, and you know could be money too. I'm sure Michigan had sort of a good offer for him, so we can't rule that out. And it's a lot to ask. I think moving your entire family to another state, and if the money isn't there, I don't think it's there for someone. So that's a big role, and I think you can't ignore that.
Yeah, never know. I think there's a lot that will come out too about exactly how this unfolded. I hope we kind of hear a little bit more about um, the whole situation of Jim Harbaugh and what the differences were, and maybe we will get that even later today or potentially down the line at some point. And it sounds like from what Adam Schefter said, the Jim Harbaugh interview for Michigan, they did not think, um, or excuse me, what was the tweet again from Schefter? He said something along the lines of that he they were elated, of course. Well, why wouldn't Michigan be? Because otherwise they were going to be in a tough spot. Um, and
And
I
that
think
dude, weren't they were having meetings to like announce something, and we all assumed that it would be that they would have a new head coach, because why else would you call a big meeting like that? But now it'll be sort of awkward for an
so. Yeah.
awkward return maybe to Michigan.
So here we go. Jim Harbaugh called Michigan to inform the school that despite interviewing the Vikings today, that that he will be returning to the school for 2022. And then he also told somebody that this would not be a reoccurring issue, and he would stay with Michigan as long as he wants, per source. So that tells me that this may have been one of those few lifetime type of offers that he wanted to think about, but now is like, no. So, with that, we're going to welcome in the man himself, Dryce Van Sloten. And how's it going, Dryce?
It's going good. How are you boys?
Hey,
Doing
good, Dryce.
pretty well. Got some interesting news, man.
Yeah, dude, we got blindsided, I think.
Yeah, we
That was
thought maybe
crazy.
we were going to get told about a new head coach, and we thought that guy was going to be Jim Harbaugh. And here we go. It's
Yeah.
Kevin O'Connell.
Let's go.
What do you think?
So I don't know. You know, Jim Harbaugh obviously seemed like he was the preferred candidate. So obviously it's not great to not get the number one guy on your list. But I don't know. I like it. It's hard to know much about O'Connell, but I think he's a great hire. It's not apples to oranges with Zach Taylor, because obviously Joe Burrow's a different quarterback than Kirk Cousins is, but I was pretty skeptical of Zach Taylor coming to Cincinnati, and that seemed to work out pretty well. So I don't know. I guess we can talk a little bit later about what we like about O'Connell, but I think at this point, kind of just wait to see who he's got on his staff and kind of just wait and see what happens. Kind of, sift through press conferences and stuff. I feel like Kwesi was kind of an unknown when he got hired, so, and I think a lot of people have come around to that. So I don't know. I'm interested to see. I trust Kwesi, but that shocked me. Not who I had expected.
Yeah, that is interesting to say the least. I don't know enough about him, and I don't think he was ever really in my top, 5 or top 10 really necessarily, but they also didn't interview my initial top 3, so obviously we're not in charge. So
Yeah.
it's and I think it sounds like Kwesi gave them 3 names originally when he was interviewing back on January 17th, I believe. That's what Doogie said on the Scoop podcast. And he said that he gave him 3 names: Kevin O'Connell, Jim Harbaugh, and Patrick Graham. And I'm not a huge fan of Graham or O'Connell, just based on what I know. And again, I don't know much about either one of them. But at the same time, maybe it is just a in Kwesi we trust situation.
It's just weird to me because if you look at the profile of those 3 guys, I would like to know Kwesi's themes between them all, because I mean, obviously there's a draw to each one of them, and it's got to have some similarities between them. But I mean, between Patrick Graham and Kevin O'Connell, they're very different. They've been under different coaching trees. Patrick Graham was a Belichick guy. He had been in that system, been under Flores for a while, then went under Joe Judge, and then O'Connell obviously kind of Shanahan and McVay and Gruden type guy, and then Jim Harbaugh is just kind of an anomaly himself. But I don't know. I don't know what to think about the hire, but Kevin O'Connell's a former Patriot quarterback, for whatever that's worth. Typically, those guys have success. A lot of Cliff Kingsbury is a former Patriot quarterback. Brock Heward. Then obviously Brissett and Jimmy G and Mac Jones and Tom Brady. They got a good track record. Doesn't mean much, but I don't know. I would have liked to have been in the meetings and to hear how he kind of laid out what it's going to look like. But after doing some digging, I guess I found Chris Thompson, former running back from Washington, played under Kevin O'Connell. He came out and said, I think it was just unprovoked, said Kevin O'Connell is going to be a great head coach. He is a great leader. Guys respond to him well, and he's, quote, I believe it was like one of the next great offensive geniuses. So it's been a ride, though, from the start of firing Zimmer to exploring those possibilities to
that was
kind of like
deep dig right there.
Yeah, I don't forget where I found that one, but it's just interesting because off the day that we fired Zimmer, if you kind of told people that we're going to get this former quarterback who had been under McVay and had kind of glowing reviews from McVay to, a lot of people that he's been around, I think a lot of people would be happy. It's just we go through this roller coaster of Jim Harbaugh and like Raheem Morris, DeMeco Ryans, and then I think it leaves a lot of people to be kind of like meh about the hire, but I feel like at the moment that we fired Zimmer, a lot of people's profiles of the next head coach would probably look very similar to Kevin O'Connell, but I don't know.
It's interesting. It's like we love an offensive genius, but I really anything else besides Zimmer would be such a big improvement. Like just someone who like even goes to offensive meetings and just like looks at that side of the ball. So yeah, it's like I see such a good prospect in Kevin O'Connell as being that offensive guy, but also Morris is like he specialized, I guess, in like Green Bay and like defensive run game. Like stopping the run. It's like I would love to be able to stop the run. I think Morris is such a good guy. So it's like I don't know between O'Connell and Morris, and like when you said that Morris wasn't even one of the three guys that Kwesi named, I was kind of bummed. Like Morris, I think should be up there.
I think he is, but I think based on what I heard, that's more of a Vikings ownership group, or maybe one of the other candidates had mentioned him as one of their guys. But so maybe Kwesi is not as all in with Raheem Morris, but maybe he will be persuaded. But it sounds very much like Kevin O'Connell, Tom Pelissero, one of the elite NFL insiders, knows quite a bit about the Vikings. I think he was a Minnesotan as well, so that gives us a little bit of an idea that he knows what he's talking about. So let's see. We got another couple of comments. My dad, again, I wonder how Andre Patterson would have done. Yeah, I still think he's got a good chance to be on this coaching staff, but I don't know if the Vikings wanted to be internal because they wanted outside perspective. So maybe if you keep some of those current guys, but also branch out a little bit and kind of a mix of that. But any of your guys, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I guess for me, as much as I love Patterson and love having him in the building and love what he's done for our team and developing being a part of developing Everson and Daniil and all those guys and having that success. And the players love him, which I guess is something that wasn't really a testament to Mike Zimmer at the end there. But part of me just really wants fresh blood, kind of, just like a breath of fresh air. We saw obviously Kwesi is just the total opposite of what Rick Spielman is. So I was kind of hoping the head coach would be the same. So as much as I love Andre Patterson and what he's done for us, I think I would have liked to see, a Kevin O'Connell or something outside the box and somebody with new, ideology and, new ways to do things. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. Do you think the Vikings will keep him on, at least as an assistant? I keep hearing myself in my headphones, and I keep hearing my words differently. Okay, so do you think he stays as an assistant on this Vikings coaching staff with Kevin O'Connell, who sounds like he's going to be the new Vikings head coach? Or do you think the Vikings let him go and kind of go where he wants to go?
I think you can't
Chris.
sever that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. I think you can't sever that tie, that relationship that the Vikings players have with him. I think he's proven to be a really good leader in that locker room, and like Dryce was saying, the guys that he developed, Daniil, Everson, and some of those guys like Barr and guys like that are still around, and Harrison Smith. So there's still that sort of chemistry there, and then I feel like this Vikings defense is shown flashes that they could be great at some points. They've shown flashes where they can't be great a lot this year, especially, but they've shown a lot of potential, and I think they just need those pieces now. They need some cornerbacks in there, and they need to sort of get some linebackers too. But I don't think Andre has been the problem. I think it's sort of been, I don't know, maybe speculation here. Maybe it was Mike Zimmer, but I think we should keep Andre Patterson in some sort type of role. I think there's a lot of to benefit from bringing in a leader on the defensive side of the ball, so a defensive coordinator from elsewhere, like that new blood. But I like keeping Andre in the system somehow.
Anything to add there, Dryce?
Yeah.
Before you go, let me just say, anybody that is interested in asking a question, feel free to put one down, and we might try and answer it for you. So, anyways, Dryce, your thoughts on Patterson staying?
Yeah, I would think that the ball would be in Patterson's court. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell probably just got a call an hour ago saying he's got the job, and he's kind of focused on the Super Bowl. So it's probably not at the top of his mind at this point. Maybe, Andre Patterson has a son on the coaching staff, AC. So maybe his roots are tied down enough, in Minneapolis that it's something that he'd explore. I would think that the, brass of the Vikings, whether it's Kwesi or the Wills family, would definitely love to have him in. When you're diving into a new place and a new team and, something totally foreign, especially when you've never been a head coach before, I think it's really, really valuable to have a guy on the staff who knows these players, knows how they work, knows like their families and knows that. So I think it's either between Andre Patterson, if he stay, or if he could get a promotion or anywhere elsewhere. And then it'd be on Kevin O'Connell to, accept him to his staff, because obviously when you make it to your dream job and somebody tells you got to keep somebody, maybe you want to bring one of your own guys in or whatever. But yeah, I think he'd be awesome to keep. And I think every single player that's worked with him has loved him. So I if we would keep him, I'd be overjoyed. But I think as well as he is, and as good as he develops defensive talent, as much as players love him, I do think there's an aspect of this that, Mike Zimmer's a free agent, Vic Fangio a free agent, all these great defensive guys are available to be D coordinators. So for him to maybe get a D coordinator job maybe is, not the most realistic thing. So I hope he'd want to stay, but yeah, who knows?
Okay, Dryce, I know you didn't get a chance to talk about Kwesi on the show, so I'm going to give you just a tiny bit of time here if you want to talk a little bit about him and what excites you the most about him.
So I think I wanted Kwesi all along. He's been my guy before we even fired Rick Spielman.
Go get your guys.
Yeah, so I'm enthused about that and how they build rosters. It's hard to pinpoint who's doing what where, so you got to kind of take what Cleveland did the past 2 years with a grain of salt. But I mean, every move that they made, aside from Austin Hooper's gigantic, terrible contract, has been like a total hit. They don't overspend. They get ascending players, not descending players. I was pretty skeptical of them signing Jack Conklin to a multi-year deal from Tennessee, and he went out and got a first-team All-Pro in his first year. They signed John Johnson from the Rams, one of the better safeties in the league, a great value deal. He's 26 years old. They got that D lineman from who was drafted by Seattle. I can't remember his name. They signed him to a cheap kind of prove it deal, and he played well for them all season. And then between that and the draft, I think they've just killed it at every pick. Grant Delpit hasn't had the best injury luck, and neither has Greedy Williams. But at the moment of the draft, those were absolute phenomenal picks and great value. You're never going to hit every pick. So I love Kwesi. I love that the Vikings are taking a bold move. If we try to make a puzzle, the rest is the same way as the NFL. The rest of the NFL, like obviously it hasn't worked the past 40, 50 years. So I love going against the grain and doing something that really nobody's done before. Like Kwesi's profile is pretty unprecedented for any sort of GM in the league. So I love that. I love that they're, making risky decisions. Especially, I don't want to catch a scrag at Kirk, but especially with, going with the safe option at Kirk Cousins at quarterback, to see a ballsy hire at GM is great for me. I love that.
Yeah, love that. Love that stuff. I know you wanted Kwesi. Was there anything like number one thing that you loved about what Cleveland did and you think that he had a big impact on?
Bringing in Kevin Stefanski, I think I've probably been the best Stefanski guy out there. So I think being a part of bringing him in, obviously they got the Ivy League connection and they kind of got these similar profiles. So if he was a that, which I'm sure he was, I pat him on the back. Stefanski got Coach of the Year, I believe. Not this year, not last year, but the year before. Honestly, if he was in the building hired Stefanski and he saw how that panned out and he thought that Kevin O'Connell had similar qualities, I love that. I think he's been around enough places and seen enough coaches and at least have a good idea about who to hire. And part of the reason, so we didn't hire Jim Harbaugh, but part of the reason where I love Jim Harbaugh was Kwesi talked a lot about blind spots in his introductory press conference. And I just think it's a perfect marriage because, if they agree to, accept each other's, ways and beliefs, and Jim Harbaugh doesn't have the relationship that he had with Trent Baalke or whatever. I just think it's beautiful because Jim Harbaugh had coached under all these, Bo Schembechler, he'd been in the league 10 years, coached under all these great coaches. So I just think it's just a perfect marriage because Kwesi does have this like forward thinking and this new thinking that really hasn't been seen before in the league. And then you mix that with a guy who's just all class football guy and, been around just some of the greatest coaches ever. So I was surprised by O'Connell, but I'm ready to roll with it. And if like I said before, if he thinks it's, a similar profile to Stefanski, I'd be enthused about it because even 2 years ago, I was saying the writing's on the wall for Zimmer. Stefanski's too good to let out the building. I think we should fire Zimmer, promote Stefanski. And I think hindsight, I think that would have been a good move, especially considering Stefanski's Minnesota ties and just being in the building for so long.
Yeah. Well, we got some more breaking news, and we might have this a time or two yet before we're done. But the Vikings did not offer Jim Harbaugh a deal after a 9-hour meeting today. Wow.
What the typical Vikings, man. Well, you can't get over it, man. Oh my God.
Man.
That's pretty crazy. I think Harbaugh would have done it. It's the way it sounds.
I mean, I don't think you fly to Minnesota and have a 9-hour interview if you're not fully prepared to sign for, 4 or 5 years. So that is crazy. That I don't know. It's not maybe the best process, but that makes me like O'Connell even more if they feel confident that he's going to be an upgrade over Harbaugh. Maybe it's going to, fall flat on its face, but that's crazy.
Dude, how about Kwesi in these 9-hour interviews? It's like, what? You just my guy's talking to people for 9 hours. Like, talking to a person for 9 hours, like, I cannot think of talking to someone for that long. That's insane to me.
Yeah, I know that they've interviewed these coaches, and they've been really long interviews. I know the GM interviews were really long too. So, but man, you thought maybe that since Harbaugh was the one that kind of got the information leaked out first that he's coming back to Michigan, that maybe he was just like, this offer's not good enough. Well, hey, I didn't even get an offer.
Yeah.
So that is just crazy. So that's crazy. Do you think that was Kwesi's decision, or do you think that was the minority owner, or
that could be? It's hard to say because
it's got to be Kwesi, right? Like he's the head guy over there. I don't know. What were you gonna say, Dryce?
I just think, I mean, there's no way you pick Harbaugh last to interview. And I mean, it looked like there was huge interest between the two. There's no reason Harbaugh flies out on National Signing Day for 9 hours if he's not prepared to be. And that, I mean, we've heard interest expressed from Kwesi and those guys. I don't know if something just blew up or if, they talked to him about something.
He's a little strange.
He is strange.
That's what my dad just commented, which is true. But
Alex Boone said he's strange in the media, but when he's got that relationship with his players, he's like super close with them. But his answers to like media will sort of be like out of pocket to like throw the media off of like routes that Jim doesn't want like the media on like about the team. So I mean that's just what Alex Boone said in the interview today. I don't know if you guys saw it, but
yeah, we saw that. Or I saw that anyway. But yeah, that was, man, I was so hyped after watching that too. Like,
yeah,
Alex Boone got me so hyped, and then just totally.
I didn't think it was possible for the Vikings to totally Viking on a head coaching job. I didn't know that was a thing that's possible, but totally happened. Got our hopes up again, and we just got crushed. But
I didn't think it was possible for this graphic to become a thing in the off season. Vikings fans and people that have nice things. Thank you to Eric Thompson on
Twitter. Perfectly with the caption.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we got to screenshot that for later. Oh man, that is just the life of a Vikings fan right there. But Kevin O'Connell might be a really good coach for the Vikings. I mean, that Chris Thompson quote that you said is very encouraging. And not that Chris Thompson's like this world beater of a running back, but the fact that he would say that is telling. I'm interested to hear from some of the other offensive players in his background to see what they would say if they would agree with that.
Yeah, and Chris Thompson's been around. I don't want to overanalyze the quote, but he's been around the block long enough to kind of, know what a good coach is and know what a good coach isn't. So I would think that endorsement is substantial. I don't know. Kevin O'Connell's he's a former quarterback in the NFL, and he's Sean McVay's offensive coordinator, and Brandon Staley tried to make his offensive coordinator. So,
hey, you know who's a former? You know who else is a former quarterback in the NFL?
Who's that?
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, that's fair. God, that's crazy to me.
Kellen Moore.
I just had to throw that out. But
yeah.
You're going to be shaking your head all night now.
I mean, I was just – that's typical Vikings because I started off and I was like, all right, Eric Bieniemy. I want Bieniemy. Maybe we can interview Brian Daboll.
Doesn't get an interview.
Neither of them get an interview. And then I'm – out of all the interviews, I'm like, all right, Raheem Morris. And then obviously all this stuff comes out about DeMeco Ryan. I'm like, oh, DeMeco Ryan, he'd be great with players. One of the highest emerging, coaches in the league. And then I get on board with him, and then he pulls his name, and then finally Harbaugh. I get around to Harbaugh, and I'm pro Harbaugh, and we yank Harbaugh, and then I was expecting it to be Morris, and then it's O'Connell. So what do I know? I guess
it's the Vikings do everything that we like, the opposite of what we think they're going to do. I swear to God.
So my take on this, just hearing that, is Harbaugh was all in, and the Vikings told him, nah.
I don't know.
We don't want you, man. We heard all you had to say for these past 9 hours, and we aren't buying it. We're not letting you come here. You're out. We're going with Kevin O'Connell. Because Jim Harbaugh, he was ready to leave. I don't think there was anybody that thought after some of the reports that came out that he was actually going to come back to Michigan. And the only reason that he goes back to Michigan, based on what I'm seeing, is that the Vikings didn't offer a contract or a deal.
That's
so
funny. Yeah.
So this is on the Vikings. It's not on Jim Harbaugh.
The funniest thing is that Michigan Twitter is going off about go to Minnesota. We don't want you. They've got old players anyways. Good riddance. You only got us one bowl win or something like that. Well, Jim's coming back. The Vikings said nope. Here you had your one shining moment. Here's this interview that you were interested in. You probably wouldn't be interested in other NFL interviews because you got this job at Michigan, but here's this job and we'll talk to you for 9 hours. Nope. See ya. See you later. Back to Michigan, Jim. It's funny.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a screenshot of somebody. How are we feeling on Kevin O'Connell? And love it, hate it, meh. Harbaugh with a sad face. They screenshotted it with one vote of Harbaugh with the sad face and said, "Stop the count." So
I mean, I've been on Twitter since the Harbaugh stuff came out, but this is that Simpsons gif where he's walking into the building, puts his hat away, and grabs his hat and walks right out.
Yeah, the really slow 9-hour edition of that. That's a really yeah. But
and Harbaugh, Nick Saban, old. Bill Belichick, old. if he's trying to do some retirement tour and be at his alma mater and his school he grew up rooting for, I just don't. He's like young still. I mean, he's not the youngest candidate out there, but like, I mean, he's only been a head coach in the NFL for 4 years. Like, you'd think maybe he's got more to prove. Like, he went from Stanford to the Rams to Michigan. So, I mean, it seems like not long ago he was in the Super Bowl with the Niners, and even before that, coaching Luck on the sideline. So, if he's doing some lifetime stuff, that'd be wild to me.
Yeah, my dad said that they talked to Pat Graham for 9 hours too, which, yeah, we kind of expected that. But the idea that Harbaugh was all in from all indications, but he didn't get an offer. So he's like, oh, hey, Michigan, I'm coming back. Run it back. I never left. Even on National Signing Day, I didn't leave. It didn't happen. Just going to put all that behind us.
That's today, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was going to be National Jim Harbaugh Signing Day. But that didn't quite pan out because he didn't get an offer. So,
dude, I feel like that's such an important day to be at as a college coach.
Yeah.
Just the Vikings invited him on the signing day? Why couldn't the Vikings invite him tomorrow for an interview if they're going to deny him? I'm pissed for Jim, dude. What the hell?
Yeah. He's doing that walk of shame back to Ann Arbor. He's got messy hair. He's wearing the clothes from the night before. He's like, oh, no. This did not end how I wanted it
to. He's like, what did I say? What did I do? Oh, no.
Golly, that's wild to me. I mean, yeah, not the best indicator either, but I'd figure if you sat in an interview room with Jim Harbaugh and Kevin O'Connell, maybe Kevin O'Connell just blows your brains off and he's just this like next Shanahan, McVay type guy. But dang, like Harbaugh's been a quarterback, been a head coach, like had success everywhere, been to a Super Bowl, and he's still like, I mean, that was only within the last decade. So like, O'Connell had to blow the brakes off the interview or something. But I would think that's a vote of confidence for the Vikings, and maybe if they're trying to negotiate, Harbaugh was asking for too much money. I don't know. That's crazy to me.
I don't think my dad just commented Jim could end up in Miami. I don't think anybody's going to Miami after everything that just came out today. So if you didn't hear, the Miami Dolphins came out that they were trying to pay Brian Flores to lose games. And then on top of that, Flores got basically ghosted on a job, and Bill Belichick accidentally texted him thinking he was Brian Daboll, and that was before the interview, supposedly, with Brian Flores, who was supposed to be the guy that satisfied the Rooney Rule as the, gotta have a black person or a black coach interview for the job. And maybe it's 2 now. I can't remember what the
I think it is 2,
is.
yeah.
So they didn't satisfy it until after they had told secretly Brian Daboll, or not so secretly, that he was the next head coach. But anyways,
I think the whole Denver situation, kind of going down a rabbit hole of that deal now, but part of the lawsuit is the Broncos had already kind of decided that Fangio was the guy, and they go into an interview with Flores, and Flores says that they're hungover and they're just asking dumb questions and not prepared. And I guess the interview only lasted an hour or so. And then you see, like the 9-hour interviews, and you're just like, yeesh. So, I mean, I would think they would get kind of a slap on the wrist too, but yeah, who knows? That's an old bad deal.
It's so sad that coaches of color are sort of being shorted like that, like where it's like there's this rule that you have to interview those two candidates, and then you'll get a lazy interview just like that, where it's like, here's a guy who's qualified and like they expect him to prepare for the interview, but that's so crazy to me. Like a 1 hour interview, like for such an important position, where they're hung over, like that's not a good look, man. No.
Yeah. And even, 80% of the league is African American, and it's like there's one African American head coach right now, and then I guess we got Ron Rivera and maybe a couple other minorities. But dang, even like Cliff Kingsbury getting fired from Texas Tech. Meanwhile, Bieniemy's just putting his feet on the desk in the box office of his fourth AFC championship, and it's like, dang, like what does a guy got to do to get? I don't know. That's wild to me. I think the problem lies with the owners above anything, which probably sadly won't get resolved, but who knows?
Yeah.
That's a fun angle.
Oh, yeah, we could have all kinds of fun with that. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the finalists again, even though it's pretty much Kevin O'Connell. Of the three, obviously the Vikings didn't offer Harbaugh. Of the three others, it seemed like we were all consensus Harbaugh number one. So O'Connell, Graham, and Morris rank those guys. Chris, let's start with you. Just go ahead and rank the finalists.
Rank those dudes.
If you would.
Can we start with Dryce, dude? I had a sheet of paper. Like, where?
Oh, you're good. You're good. I can.
Okay. Yeah, Go ahead, Dryce.
All right. So, granted, I know, just a little piece of, what we see, but I was really encouraged by Raheem Morris. I think a lot of the players you hear talk about him, they just glowing reviews. So I think that was something that I think that was a big part of who they wanted to get in the coaching search. So I think he did that really well. Obviously, we've seen his defense in the playoffs, and it's done really, really, really well. So I think that's encouraging. I think he's got a defense. I think it's encouraging again that he's part of kind of the Shanahan tree, and back in that famous staff of McVay and LaFleur and both Shanahan's father and son. Raheem Morris was in those meetings, and I think it was honestly those five guys, and Raheem Morris was in there too. So I think it's to have him be respected by those guys, as much as it sucks having a defensive coach where there's a revolving door at offensive coordinator. I think Morris at least has a deep pool of these guys who are under Shanahan or McVay, and now Zach Taylor and any one of those guys that he respects, and they respect him, and he knows them. So that was a plus for me. As much as I did like Raheem Morris, again, like Raheem Morris was in Tampa and he won 10 games, and I love the staff he had. And he won that with Josh Freeman. So I'd say he's a good head coach in a league where, 6 or 7 get fired every year. But yeah, my one thing with Morris was just, we had a great defensive guy the past 8 years, and it kind of just sucked to watch offensive coordinators either get fired or get hired as a head coach, or, punch the head coach in the face, or whatever that whole deal was. So I think if we are approaching a rebuild, I think it's important to have continuity, and with scheme, with people, with everything, same people, same everything. It's hard to be a good young quarterback in the league. So if we went in that direction, that's obviously a negative. That's the other team. And then I'll say that into O'Connell. I like O'Connell. I think a lot of people like O'Connell. I think it's encouraging. I think I said it before, but Brandon Staley wanted him to come to LA and be their OC, running the show there with Justin Herbert. I think that's encouraging. Staley's well liked, and he's deep in analytics, and obviously the fourth downs that he goes for gets all the glory, but he's he thinks in similar ways as Kwesi does. So I think to be valued highly valued O'Connell's services, I think, is huge, and I think that kind of translates to what Kwesi's trying to build. And then Sean McVay blocking his lateral move to OC to stay with the Rams, I think, is telling. It's a league where if you're, handing Sean McVay coffee, you're going to get hired as a coach. So to have him actually be respected by him and be the OC and be a former quarterback and relate with the players, I think that's good. And if we are approaching a young quarterback, nobody better than Kevin O'Connell to be sitting with him and pointing him at coverages and all this type of stuff that he's seen. He's been coached through, and he's also coached. One thing that maybe scares me about O'Connell, maybe it won't scare people maybe about it, but obviously he's coached Kirk Cousins, I believe, 2015-16 in Washington. So I really hope this hire wasn't, whether we keep Kirk around for another year or whatever, I really hope this hire wasn't made to cater to Kirk, because I just really don't see Kirk, hopefully, as part of the plan in the long term past, next year, if he is around for next year. So, I mean, if that was a big part of the process, and then I'm obviously not as enthused about it. But yeah, I mean, O'Connell has a lot of great things. I think we're set up well to run O'Connell's system. I think each and every one of our guys on the O-line is like upper tier athletes. They're scoring well in, the relative athletic, the RAS or whatever. They're all maybe like 7 or above. Guys who can move well, zone scheme. We got Dalvin, Nguanu, we got Madison. So yeah, I think offense will be maybe hopefully the same level as it was under Kevin Stefanski. And then Patrick Graham.
Okay, yeah. So you're kind of going through the candidates, are the finalists. Are you going to give us a final number at the end here?
Yeah, so I admittedly I was Raheem Morris 1, O'Connell 2, and then Patrick Graham 3. Patrick Graham I like a lot. I think he's a great coach, and he's an Ivy League guy, so him and Kwesi have that connection. I've heard quotes about Patrick Graham to where he sees the field kind of differently than other coaches. He diagrams it all off and tries to make it in a way that you got to cover this section of the field, and he's very analytically driven. He thinks in ways a lot of people don't. So I think that's valuable. If we could get him as a D coordinator, I think that'd be great. I think he'd be a good leader that people like, and obviously favors analytics, which is big with our new regime. But I think there can be a lot of good coaches, but I do think it takes a lot to be a great head coach and to take a team to the Super Bowl. So I think you do have to have some of these like unicorn abilities, I guess, that kind of are just a trump card, or otherwise you got to hopefully luck into a good young quarterback like a Herbert or Josh Allen or a Burrow, those type of guys. So I think O'Connell has, hopefully he's got those same qualities of the McVay and Shanahan, but I guess we'll see. Once he assembles a staff, I think you'll have a better idea of how it's going to look with him as the head coach.
So to recap, 1, Raheem Morris.
Yeah.
2, O'Connell. 3, Graham. Okay, that's probably my rankings. Chris, you have anything different?
Yeah, definitely that's mine too, man. Like, do you want me to like? I don't know. I had this couple things to say about Raheem Morris, because
Go for it.
Dryce was kind of talking about McConnell, but Morris, given that he got his first head coaching opportunity and very young, and I think he sort of went 21-38, and he had a good season with Josh Freeman, like Dryce mentioned, sandwiched between two seasons that were not so good. So, and I think Raheem has said in an interview before that he was very young and not very knowledgeable. I mean, I don't think he said that, but you get what the kind of vibe he gave off, where he didn't feel ready in that position yet. But I think he's been under a lot of guys that that sort of fit the realm of the ideal head coach, and he's sort of developed into that leader, man. Like, I don't know. I see a lot of value in bringing in someone like him. I feel like he's sort of like a little different from McConnell, from the analytical guy Graham. Like Dryce was saying, like I feel like when you get Raheem Morris in there, he's sort of like a leader of men, and I don't know, that ground and pound type of football, defense and stopping the run and all that, where Graham is sort of analytically driven. And I think with Kwesi, we do sort of have an analytical side, and I would be interested, to see if opposites attract, where we bring in like someone from that opposite end where it's a less analytical background. And I mean, that's just me speculating about Morris. Maybe he does have that sort of background more than I'm giving him credit for. But I like the idea of like a different sort of head coach than the GM, if that makes sense. So,
Well,
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
Morris 1, McConnell 2, and then Graham 3 for sure.
Yeah, so I think we're all in agreement there. Didn't get Chandler's opinion because he can't be with us tonight. But yeah, I think Morris just screams greatness. I know that's easy to say, but he's got a lot of the qualities that you like. I mean, players like him, but they don't like him in the sense that they're buddy. It's like, I really respect this guy because he does care about me, but he also wants the best for the team and wants to see the team perform well. So it's a good mix. I think that's a key difference between a complete players coach and somebody that's just all business, like maybe Mike Zimmer was. But Dryce, you gotta unmute yourself.
So I got another thing to add too. We were kind of talking earlier about, have a different type of mold at head coach than you were to have at GM too. And I think that's important too. So obviously with Kwesi, he talked about, when he was asked or provoked about not being the traditional pro scout, college scout, he referenced maybe a couple times that there's a lot of ways to get to finish line. It's just about kind of how you view getting there. And I think people see Kwesi as this just dude who's going to sit behind the computer, and, he will, and he'll have he'll have that aspect of that. But I think ultimately it's about putting good players on the field, giving the head coach good players to work with. And I think that's something Kwesi does really well. I think that's something the Browns did well outside of Baker. They've had a really, really good roster. So I think the draw of Patrick Graham is that he'd work well and he would accept that ideology as well. But I think it's important too to have, like, that's why I was pro Harbaugh, is just have, like a football guy in there who knows how to lead and knows this other stuff. And as long as they can kind of respect how each other sees it, and, not going to walk into the room and say Kwesi's an idiot for doing it this way or that way, and just respect that there are very good football players on the field. So, yeah, I guess that's something I just had to add. I think people made the pairing of Patrick Graham and Kwesi because they're both Ivy League guys, but ultimately, yeah, I think it's more about the process of finding players as opposed to, analytics. People kind of get wrapped up in should you go for it on first down? Should you kick the field goal? And obviously that's on the spectrum and that's part of it. But I think, yeah, I think it plays a bigger role for GM. That's why I was really pro Kwesi and, I wasn't as pro Patrick Graham, I guess you should say.
Yeah. Good stuff. So anything you wanted to add on that, Chris, before we play a little trade or keep?
No, I think we summed it up good.
We've gone to extreme lengths. So, okay. Well, most of these are for Dryce because we've already, both you and I, Chris, have already done these. So maybe we should do like a rapid fire, like 2 of them in 60 seconds. If you could do that.
I'm good with that.
So we're going to go ahead and add the timer in here.
Oh, yes, the timer.
Let's go.
So, and we're going to go ahead and get the music rolling here as well. So, all right. Who do you think the first one's going to be? Who else could it be?
Okay.
Who else could it be?
Trade.
All right. We're going to go.
Quarterback.
Just 1 second. I'm going to start it right now. 3, 2, 1.
Trade. Dude, Kirk's great, but he is who we thought he was. Like I said in the last, we saw Harbaugh trade Alex Smith to the Chiefs. He got rid of that. He went to the Super Bowl with Kaepernick. Trade Cousins. Get him out of here. I don't want to see him anymore.
All right. Adam Thielen.
Tough. I think trade Thielen. Maybe. I think we've seen enough of KJ Wright and Amir Smith-Marset to have a conversation with him of whether he wants to be a part of a rebuild or not. So he's also a Ring of Honor guy, and I think he's Minnesota as it gets. So it's not easy letting those guys go out. So I'm indifferent either on that one. We can keep him, trade him. I don't care. I like Adam Thielen.
All right. Dalvin Cook.
Trade. I think the emergence of...
You're looking like me right now. Just trading everybody.
I don't like living in this hypothetical world or this Madden world, but we've seen enough of Alexander Madison. We've used enough draft capital on Madison and Kenna Ngwahu, so I think we got to trade him. Even a quick note, I've been big Kenna Ngwahu, but to see him play and be an absolute gun out of a freaking cannon, I'd love to see him on the field. And yeah, if we can free some cap on the way too, that'd be great.
All right, we're going to start the clock again. You got 3 of them done in a minute. We're going to go back to trade or keep with Danielle Hunter.
Go. I think we keep Danielle Hunter. I think his contract's one of the best values in the league. He's still young. He's a guy that is probably our best player, at least 1A, 1B to Jefferson. Obviously hasn't been healthy. If he wants to take a Joey Bosa contract, then we can kind of make calls about trading him. But for now, we'll keep Danielle.
All right. Harrison Smith.
See, that's another Ring of Honor guy where I think, everybody's got his jersey and, he sells tickets and people love him. The locker room loves him. I don't think we'll get much compensation for him, and his contract's pretty modest. I think we'll keep Harrison. I think he's a key guy in the locker room for the next guy, for Kevin O'Connell.
Eric Kendricks, 9 seconds.
I'm keeping Kendricks, I guess. Now that Barr's contract's freed up and we get to see some young guys at the position, I think Kendricks is a great leader, and I think he brings a lot to the defense and the team. So.
All right. We're going to start the clock.
Eric Kendricks only gets 9 seconds.
And we're going to go ahead and do Anthony Barr. This is the re-sign or let go part.
All right.
We're going to let you do Anthony Barr and Patrick Peterson in 30 seconds, and then we are going to join you for a few other ones.
Let's
All
go.
right. 3, 2, 1.
I think we let him go. I don't know how the spending looks like, and ultimately we bring good talent in, but maybe we get a comp pick for him. I don't know. I don't think he's going to get the deal with the Jets a couple years ago, but he's kind of a descending player, and I kind of want to get ascending players in the building. We'll let Barr go.
All right, Patrick Peterson.
I think we got to let him go too. I think he's great to have in the building, but ultimately, he's a Cardinal. He's not a Viking. He's north of 30 years old, and I would rather see Dantzler play or whoever it may be. Maybe we draft a guy early next year. We'll let Patrick Peterson go.
Woo!
Sorry, I'm sorry, man.
Hot take.
Hot take indeed.
Woo. Yeah,
right.
I mean, he's great, but yeah, he's 31, I think. Maybe he's younger. I'm not sure. He's old, so I would rather see younger players play.
We're going to go ahead and bring Chris into the spotlight now. Chris, 60 seconds. Resign or let go Tyler Conklin.
I say we re-sign Gronk to a new contract. He stepped up
Baby
in
Gronk?
a huge role this year. Baby Gronk, dude, he looks like Gronk out there the way he plays sometimes. Not all the time, but Irv Smith, he went out this year and Tyler stepped in huge. Like he didn't know he was going to be in this role, we relied on Tyler huge. He's came up for us. Like, sure, there's been drops, but it's mostly been good production from Tyler. So I think he's a guy too where he's so young. Do I have 60 seconds on this or 30?
15.
Okay, well, he's just so young, man. I don't think he draws much value in the trade market too. So Tyler, he's still got so much untapped potential. Like I think we got to keep him, re-sign him. That's just me.
All right. Back to Dryce. You're back in the spotlight. You get 60 seconds this time.
Let's go.
Tyler Conklin, who you got? Or what's your decision?
I'm re-signing Conklin. See, these are the guys. If it's between I don't know financially what would each be, but if it's between a Pat Peterson or a Conklin, I'm keeping Conklin. I think Conklin's best football is ahead of him. I think Patrick Peterson's best football is behind him. I think you got to keep Conklin. Obviously, you don't know where Irv Smith's going to be after his injury, and I don't know. God, who's the guy that we traded from the Jets? Why can't I think of his name?
Chris Herndon.
Chris Herndon. Yeah, if he's on the team next year, I don't know, but I like him a lot too. But yeah, keep Conklin. He's one of our better offensive players last year.
All right. I like Tyler Conklin too, and based on the Irv Smith injury, you need depth at that position. So I think you got to bring him back. If the only problem is the amount of money that he wants. If you can get him at a good deal, get him. So, all right. Dryce, we're going to start with you this time again. Mackenzie Alexander. Are you re-signing him or are you letting him walk because he was one of Zimmer's guys?
I'm gonna go with let him walk. If he kind of on day 4 or day 5 free agency gives the call and says he'll take $2 million or something, maybe give it to him. He's a good player. He's a good nickel corner. I think I would still like to see younger and more ascending players, but yeah, he's a good player. Definitely make the team better next year. It's just a question of whether how much you want to spend on him, I guess.
Well, since you have extra time, Sheldon Richardson, 20 seconds.
I think I'm going to let Sheldon Richardson go, especially just for how, I guess, promising our D-line looked with Kenny Willekes. Can't even remember any of their names. Arlen Watts.
Deshaun Bauer.
Full gang. Yeah, all those guys, I'd like to see them on the field and see what we got. Because ultimately, we're not in a position to compete next year, and I don't think, Kwesi or the owners would even say that we are. So,
all right, Chris, back to you. 3, 2, 1.
I don't I don't like keeping Mac. I think watching the games this year, there's too many times I've seen him get burned. He hasn't played up to that standard of when we first got Mackenzie Alexander when he first got into the league, and I think he played for the Bengals too, and he played pretty well for them. And then he came back, and he wasn't the typical Mackenzie Alexander we know and love. So, like what Dryce said, if we can get him for 1.52 mil, I think he's good enough to keep around, and like he's better than some of the corners we got. But I don't see us giving that much cash to him. Then Sheldon Richardson, I don't like keeping him. Our run defenses hasn't been there this year, man. There was such high prospects, but it wasn't there. I feel like there's younger options out there, so let's let go of Sheldon Richardson. I feel like he's got probably a big cap hit too. Like he's a veteran guy, so it'd be nice to get that off the salary cap.
Yep, I agree with both of those. Let him go. Let him go. So that's all I got. All right. We're going to go back to you again, Chris, for Mason Cole.
Oh,
and we're not even doing all of them tonight. We've got 3 more left because we could be here a while if we went through all of these guys. But let's go ahead and go with Mason Cole. Chris, resign or let go?
Well, we've seen Rick Spielman bring in Wyatt Davis from Ohio State. We thought as Vikings fans that he would be in that role as guard, but the team sort of leaned towards Mason Cole in that area.
He's a rookie. He's not good enough.
Right, exactly, and that's what Zimmer's belief was. But good riddance, Zimmer. Right, we've sort of got a new prospect as a head coach, and why? That's such a mystery. Where has Wyatt Davis been all year? Like, has he really not been good enough to even like play in the last meaningless game? So is Zimmer holding that much of a grudge? Like, what do we really have in Wyatt Davis? So I'd like to really get to the bottom of that. And I feel like the head coach, a new head coach, we can sort of gauge that a little bit more. And I like Wyatt Davis, and I think he's got a lot of prospect. I don't like Mason. I don't think he's that bad. Mason Cole has been that effective, so let's let go.
All right. I'm letting him go. I'll just tell you that right now. Did not think he was good enough this past year. I think that was kind of almost a wasted trade, even though they didn't give up much for him. But Dryce, what are your thoughts?
I'm letting him go. Honestly, maybe I'm just a hopeless Kyle Hinton fan, but that man is so dang athletic. I want to see him on the field. Now that we got the zone scheme.
Tyler Linderbaum.
Yeah, maybe that too. I suppose we already tried it with Bradbury. I think Kyle Hinton, I mean, if you go back and look at his testing numbers, it rivals, Tristan Wirfs 3 inches smaller. So get that man on the field. I want to see him. I want to see a wide zone play where he's moving 15 yards down the field, pounding a safety. So free that man. If Bradbury's got something in the tank, we'll let Bradbury cook a little bit too.
All right, so a big no for Mason Cole. How about another offensive lineman, Rashad Hill? You bringing him back? 10 seconds.
Okay, so that's a depth piece that I think I would be open to if he was willing to sign for pretty cheap. But, I'm trusting all the young guys up front. We got a lot of no one that hasn't necessarily, converted into good O-line play. So hopefully O'Connell knocks the O-line.
And the thing, too, with Rashad Hill is for me to re-sign him, I would say he's got to be my 4th tackle. I've got to have a better backup than him. Yeah. Because the Vikings, during the season, said Rashad Hill is not good enough to start in one game, so we are going to go ahead and totally revamp our offensive line, and we saw how that turned out. It did not turn out very well. So
yeah, Rashad Hill, off-topic quote, but Peyton Manning, when he was with the Colts, they asked one of his coaches, I forget who it was specifically, but they said, so do you guys prepare as if Peyton were to go down in an injury? And he said, no, we do not prepare for getting FUCKED. I think that's the same testament of Rashad Hill, because it's like he sucks. So it don't matter if I'm out there blocking, I'm gonna suck terribly. I'm gonna tear every bone in my body the first play. But yeah, I mean, he's not good, so I wouldn't care if they don't bring him back.
All right.
I'm sorry about the explicit quote.
Oh yeah. Well, good thing this isn't airing on the radio or anything. So,
I like how you
Mr.
spelled it
Dupik.
out, though. That was good.
I didn't want to say it.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yes. Rashad Hill. I think we keep Rashad Hill. He's been that death roll, man. I don't see him in left tackle. I think Darisaw's got that spot locked down for us, but Rashad Hill I don't think is a starting lineman for us. I don't think he's got that skill level, but it's like we need solid backups, and he's shown that he can be that for us. So re-sign Rashad Hill for cheap. Who's next?
All right. The big one of the night. Greg the Leg.
Keep Greg Joseph. Greg the Leg, man. He's been clutch this year. Sure, he missed that kick against the Bengals.
Except
who are
that
now in
one
the
time.
Super Bowl. Who
Or that
knows?
other time.
Okay. I'm talking about this year, though. I'm talking about this year. He's won games for us, man.
2022?
We counted on him. Yes.
Okay.
We counted on him so much to win games because we've worked under Mike Zimmer, who let the games come down to the last play like every game. So he's won a lot of games for us, man.
He's a restricted free agent,
Resign
meaning
him.
the Vikings could keep him from going to another team, or they could match anybody's offer. But yeah,
Okay,
so
keeping him around. I like it.
I am all for drafting a 5th-round kicker and actually keeping him this time, despite missing 3 kicks in one game. But let's go ahead, Dryce.
Fair.
Back to you.
Who knows,
Greg
dude?
the Leg.
I think Greg the Leg's the GOAT, but yeah, obviously ripped my heart out versus the Cardinals. And
Are you sure you're not thinking about Greg Zuerlein?
yeah, and maybe 5th-round kicker's the way to go. I mean, obviously Daniel Carson didn't work out, but both the kickers in the Super Bowl are 5th-rounders.
It worked out, but for the wrong team.
That's true. I'll roll with the Greg the Leg. I like him. He's been a bright spot for a lot of dark ones on the team.
All right. Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
That was easy peasy right there, gentlemen. Well, that was...
Dude, but you said 2022. I just got your joke.
Yeah. Finally, you got it, huh? All right.
Yeah, finally.
Hey, that's okay. That's me sometimes in the middle of the night after talking with somebody for a long period of time. So, be like,
Yes, sir.
oh, I finally get that joke that person told me. But you know how that goes. So, well, gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm going to go ahead and let you both give your final statements tonight before we head off for the evening. And of course, we know that 2 things have come to fruition tonight. Jim Harbaugh will not be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And the second thing that came to fruition is that Kevin O'Connell is very likely going to be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, per Tom Pelissero, NFL Network. So, let's go ahead and start with Chris. Your final statements from everything we talked about, or anything else that you wanted to mention today.
Yeah, thank you, Shuby. I think we've seen a typical Vikings move. Super disappointed with the whole Harbaugh news, but this is such a critical time, and I feel like with the Super Bowl coming up, that's going to play a huge role in who we decide to go towards. Knowing that Morris and Kevin O'Connell are both on the Rams, and it's kind of like they're on the same kind of team. So like it's interesting. I'm sure they're like talking about it, and they're like really close. So it's like your best friends are like in the same race for a job. So I don't know if they're even that close of friends, but who knows? But yeah, man, it's an interesting time. I think overall, us Vikings fans, we just want to see a head coach candidate, come in and um, be someone that our quarterback can play for, right? And be approachable, because we haven't seen that with our past coach. We know stuff has come out that as Zimmer and Kirk sort of didn't see eye to eye, and we know that by now. So Kirk, I feel like, is a guy who he's laid back, and he just needs to come out of his shell. And I think a good head coach who is all about his players can do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing if it'll be O'Connell, seeing if it'll be Morris, seeing if Kirk Cousins will play for the Vikings in this upcoming football season. There's a lot of questions, and I'm glad to be on this podcast to talk about it with you guys. Just get it out of my chest. It's been a good ride.
It's been a lot of fun. Hello?
Hello.
Am I on? Oh yeah, I am on.
You're
You're
on.
All right. Well, yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that you guys said tonight. Despite your last Greg the Leg comments there, Chris, but I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide under the rug tonight and let you get away with it. But I'm
I'll let
pretty
Dryce get away with
disappointed.
that Patrick Peterson take too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am honestly pretty disappointed with how things panned out. The Vikings made it seem like they were going to go and get Jim Harbaugh, and it was just going to be a question if it was a fit, and or maybe just the question of when is he going to sign the contract for how much money. And Jim Harbaugh went with the intention, from all things that I have seen, of signing with the Minnesota Vikings as their next head coach. And the Minnesota Vikings pulled the rug from underneath his feet and said, we're going with Kevin O'Connell, a guy that's never coached as a head coach in the NFL before, a young guy. He's an offensive mind, and, he might have a bright future. Chris Thompson, former running back with the Washington football team, now Washington Commanders. He said that he is a good leader and will make a good head coach someday. So, I've got hope, but I'm still hurt a little bit right here, man. I got to tell you, it's so hard. It's so hard, right? You got this, like
Yes.
it's just that whole thing,
Final statements.
Vikings fans, people that have nice things. That's pretty much my final statement, right there. But I still trust Kwesi. And that's pretty much all I've got. But yeah, it's been fun talking with you guys. Dryce, final statement.
I'm gonna, in the words of our just worst quarterback ever, Aaron Rodgers, RELAX, boys. Let's trust Kwesi. Let's ride. Let's go. We're going to the Super Bowl. I'm all the way back in.
State Farm Stadium. Here we go.
I'm in on it. Let's just. The beauty of it is the Wills family's driving the car. Kwesi's in the passenger seat. We're in the back. We're in the freaking tailgate of the truck. All we gotta do is just be happy. Let's ride. Yeah. That's all I got, I guess.
I like it. Ride, baby.
All right,
let's ride.
Kwesi. I like
Trust
it.
Kwesi 2022, baby.
Kwesi 2022, 2024, every election after that, keep them rolling. Well, again, we appreciate everybody that joined even for a little bit tonight to be with us during this either troubling time or happy time, whatever, mixed emotions, whatever you may be feeling. We're glad that you joined us tonight, and we thank you for watching the Skol Purple Podcast, episode number 6. Jim Harbaugh, not the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. He's returning to Michigan, and The next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings is very likely to be Kevin O'Connell, the offensive coordinator of who could be eventually the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams, or it could be Joe Burr as well. So, and I probably sounded pretty rough when I just said that, but I will take my L's because I still love watching Joe Burrow play the quarterback position. So, anyways, gentlemen, it's been real.
Who do you guys got in the Super Bowl, by the way?
Oh yeah, maybe we should do that. I really hate picking against the Bengals because, man, they've just defied the odds all season. So I don't know if I can do it again. I don't know if I can pick against them. I gotta go with Joe Burr, man.
Do it.
Burr.
Yeah.
Bengals by $1 billion, baby. Joe Burr. Joe Shiesty.
Yep. Yes, sir. No, don't doubt Burr, dude. But hey, nothing's good has come to anyone who's doubted Burr. That's what I'll say.
That's facts.
And the Rams will make it a good game, though. And I think the key is going to be if they can pressure Burrow enough, and because they've got the guys to do it. I mean, I think the pressure on the quarterback's going to be key, and if Matthew Stafford can do enough offensively more than Burrow. So, but yeah, I'm excited for that game. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. So, and yeah. So I guess we're all on the Bengals. I don't know. Should we want our new OC to win so he comes in with a good mood, or I don't know.
I want a chip on the shoulder.
Let's get Burrow in there. Let's get Jamara Super Bowl. Love it.
Get O'Connell a taste of it, and then he can come to Minnesota and he'll be hungry.
Yeah, get his second taste of it. I think because was he with the Rams when they went the last time, or wasn't he?
I think he was, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Get a second taste. Third time's the charm. Just like it is with the Vikings coaching situation. Harbaugh, nope. And before that, D'Amico Ryans, who may have been actually really in the mix, and he's like, nah, I'm staying in San Fran, which I get his reasoning, but anyways, yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, it's been fun, and we'll look forward to talking with you once again. And Skol. Skol Vikes.
It's a pleasure, boys.
Skol.
Yes. All right. Before, if I can actually find what I'm looking for here. Okay, there we go. Before we let you go, I want to remind everybody to go ahead and find us on social media at Skol Purple Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course on TikTok now as well. We have to get somebody to do the TikTok thing because I am not the most TikTok savvy, but maybe I'll have to get one of you guys to get on our TikTok.
I'm not a TikTok guy.
Okay. I see you over there, Chris.
It could be me. Who knows? Could be me. Hey, I wish we could all get into a room and do some TikTok dances, man. And just
do some gritties.
Jerseys.
Do some gritties.
Yeah, we could do the gritty. Let's do the gritty.
And see if we're as bad as Kirk.
Well, we all gotta wear freaking Vikings jerseys next time we're on. I got Randall Cunningham that's burning a hole in my pocket.
Oh, nice. All right, guys. We will we'll be with you again hopefully next week, even though Kevin O'Connell is not going to be officially hired next week. We might still do a little show and have a little fun because we like having a little fun. So, but that's going to do it for this week. And as a typical Midwesterner, I've been saying goodbye for a while, but this time it's for real. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll catch you in the next one. Skol.
Skol.